And we're live. You know, people are going to start thinking this is a furry podcast.
It is.
We do have a furry and a scaly.
We have a furry and a scaly.
Yeah.
And
we do.
We have you too.
Wherever you fit into that spectrum. But you do fit in somewhere, make no mistake.
Okay, so this is episode... What, like... 6?
6? 6?
I know that we don't know.
God, 6.
Stop saying the number 6. I'm freaking...
I'm gonna say, like, welcome to episode 6, and then you're gonna look down from, like, the YouTube bar, and it says clearly episode 7.
Yes, we're on episode 6.
Thank you, Vinn.
Thank you, Vinn, our PR manager, who I don't pay.
Checker, as always.
No,
you
pay
don't
him. Baby. That's right.
You pay him by letting Dhuur'in do Eldritch Blast whenever he wants.
Eldritch Blast.
It's a cantrip. I can do it whenever I want.
Okay, so I am your dungeon master, Connor Mann. With me, as always, is Vinn, Finn, Ethan, Sophie, and M. At some point, I'll do like if we get like 3,000 subscribers, I'll do like a big fancy intro where it's like Sophie as Ozla Highhill, and it's like voiced by Mark Strong and whatever.
That'll be after I draw everyone's character art.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get started here, is there any housekeeping that anybody has?
No.
Remember, we have a Twitter at DiceDogsDND.
Right. Yes, and there is a particular artist who I worked with today for this campaign. They're letting me use some of their art for one of the NPCs, and we will get to that soon. But I will have a link to their bio below, and I will give them a proper introduction, but I don't want to spoil it yet.
I'm excited.
All right. So, last time on Dice Dogs, the shepherds arrived within the city of Zadash, you'll remember, and were being shepherded around town by a young lad by the name of Zilbin. And you visited not all the sites of Zadash because it's a rather large city, but you did visit the Invulnerable Vagrant and had a very good time there, if I remember correctly. And you guys are still kind of under city arrest, where you're not allowed to leave while the investigation into what happened is still going on. But other than that, you have your food and your lodging has been paid for, and you're currently staying at the Leaky Tap, if you guys will remember, headed by the half-elven woman, the elven woman, Claudia Sheed. So, before we get started, anything anybody wants to say? Any comments anyone wants to make about last game, today's game, anything at all?
Kubo!
I have juice.
You have what, M?
I have juice. For me and for Fenkin and for Kubo.
Well,
Dhuur'in's drinking!
Okay. So
that's some good world building.
So where we left off last time is you guys were kind of turning in for the night after meeting Claudia, and as she was kind of closing down the tavern. And basically, there's 3 rooms available for the 5 of you right now. Each room has about 2 beds. So who's sleeping with whomst?
So we got roommates. Aww.
Roomies.
Well,
I guess it's a matter of who's going to sleep with Dhuur'in, or are they going to leave him to his own room?
Who drew the short straw and is in a room with Dhuur'in?
I can roll it. I can roll it right now.
It would be way more hilarious if you actually roll it.
Okay, so M, you're going to be 1. Sophie, you're going to be 2. Ethan, you're going to be 3. And Finn, you're going to be 4. It's 2.
No! Us!
Me and you, baby!
Okay, so Oz is. We'll say that Oz is bunking with Dhuur'in. We'll say that Fenkin is bunking alone because he had to have his beauty routine and all that. Put on his face mask and his keys.
Yes.
On the
Yeah.
My aunt doesn't want to sleep in there with him. She begged her to let her in.
and Gesh is with Nox. Gesh Nox for life. Gesh Nox.
Can I? Gosh. Can I submit to the canon that the reason that Ozla and Dhuur'in are rooming in the same room is that the room that Dhuur'in claimed the only other bed in there was a child bed?
Why would you say this?
So she was the only one that could fit.
It's a cradle.
You know what?
No!
You know what? I am going to... What I'm going to say is the bed that is the room that that Ozla and Dhuur'in are taking is usually used by Claudia and Kubo, but since they're since they're kind of like over full tonight, they're letting you guys use that room. So yeah, one of the beds is very much child size, but it is. But
I will leave this campaign.
And she's the only one who would actually fit.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, as you all turn in for the night and fall swiftly to sleep, you regain all your health points, you regain all your spell slots if you used any. I don't think you did last time, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
We regained all the health that we lost doing shopping.
We could have.
You're the one who tried to start a fight with a bunch of floating lanterns.
It is also
it didn't work out, unfortunately. So.
And everybody's having a good evening of rest. Save for Dhuur'in.
Oh.
Dhuur'in.
Oh no.
In this eve, there is no kind rest for you. You awaken, but not in the place you know. Not in a place of things and time to be touched and smelled, but in a place without reason, without knowing. You open your eyes to a blackness that seems so dark and cold, which explodes in colors so bright that your eyes would be seared had you the eyes to see. As you bring your hands up to block the light, you find they too are not there. Within this expanse of screaming, bubbling, burning, freezing color, you are only conscience, a mind drifting in a sea of unreality. Bobbing with the currents that should not be, causality breaks and cracks and screams around you in a maddening song that is without a chorus. All about you, eyes and lights flicker like popping blisters, and jaws wider than planets stretch cavernously in silent howls. Stars explode and die in cacophonous orchestras of undone reason, as tendrils cold as night corpses squirm into your ears that you can no longer feel. You feel as though you are naked in an ice-cold sea, with 1,000 eyes passing over you. How long does each gaze last? Moments? Minutes? Entire eons? You can't tell. In this place there is no time, and no pain. And yet you feel as though every cell in your knot body has been set alight like a heretic's pyre, as though the flesh has been peeled back from the muscle of your physical form to face the howling winds of a vast, merciless desert. Even the merest glances of a lingering concept is enough to turn your words into gibberish and slush, the quietest sound enough to blast your eardrums into atoms. And yet you listen and see still, plunging deeper and deeper into this well of eternal wrongness. Finally, you hear them. The flutes. The flutes of clay and strings of sinew. You see the center of all that is in this place and all that is not. Concepts and thoughts and possibilities and probabilities are born and destroyed all around you as you draw closer and closer to the mass of cosmic impossibility that dreams in the blackest of depths. By its fleeting unconscious will, entire worlds, entire realities are forged into being and dreamed away just as quickly snuffed out as easily as a match. The mass alone is enough to send your mind spiraling back, unable to comprehend the sheer size of the being before you. Every one of its billions of pustules is the size of a galaxy, some far bigger. The pipes grow louder as you plunge away from its sucking impossibility, polyp attendants blowing their discordant tunes to keep this eternal wrong at bay, knowing that even a moment of waking could erase all that is and all that will ever be in the merest of fleeting moments. You hear voices as you scream with a throat that does not exist. Karn, Fenkin, Ozla, Gesh, Nox. You hear these voices, or at least a memory of them, and feel the urge to cling to them, to anchor to them like buoys of order in this place of chaos and pain. They mix and blend and spew before finally all is quiet. You turn. There is only blackness before two eyes open. Painted lips on a titanic face look down upon you, and you can feel the baleful gaze upon your entire being, your entire existence. And as your former mistress smiles, sharp fangs revealed under the ruby red of her lipstick, she speaks to you directly. I see you, little rabbit. I can always still see you. Hide behind your false gods. Let them poison you, inside and out. Let them sing into your ear. And when you are nothing more than a broken pile of meat, your mind ruined and your sanity depleted by the thing you call a savior, I will be there for you, my sweet little Dhuur'in. And when I am, then the true fun can begin. And with that, you awaken with a start, Ozla by your side.
Jesus Christ.
Ozla because she could probably hear him like freaking out and like rolling around in bed. She's probably just like slowly like woken up, like what the hell's that? And as she rolls over, she can see Dhuur'in just going like wild in the bed sheets, and like a sort of like practice, like, oh, okay. She like yawns and clambers out of bed and just like stands next to where his head is. And when he wakes up, she just like tilts her head and goes, "You okay? Did you have a nightmare?"
When he wakes up with a start, only to roll over and see eyes upon him, he'll sit up really quick in bed and like back himself up against the wall. He's breathing really heavy because this dream was clearly very intense. Kind of like grab at whatever he's wearing to pull it closer to him and like,
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. It's okay. Hang on 1 second. And then she just like starts to clamber up onto the bed, struggling with the bed sheets. And
he's startled by her getting closer.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Breathe. Breathe. Just breathe.
It is not your burden to bear.
It's not a burden. Hang on 1 second. Let me get there.
Dhuur'in, you watch as this the tiniest and the strongest member of the shepherds clambers up onto the side of the bed, kind of having difficulty swinging her tiny legs up onto like a relatively normal sized bed. And you can feel the cold sweat against your skin as you still shiver and still hear the echoes of all the nightmarish sounds in the back of your mind.
As she gets onto the bed, she like crosses her legs and and as she looks in, she like sort of like she's really sleepy, so she's smiling, And she like sort of puts both of her hands out in front of her, palms up, and says, "Come here," and like gestures for him to put his hands out. And she says, "Fen has nightmares a lot, so you know I can. If you want to talk about it, I'm here."
He stares down at her tiny, tiny little hands, little stout fingers, and there's a long period of just scared, shaky staring. But he will hesitantly reach out, and it's really just with his fingers that he'll like hook the tips of his fingers to the tips of her fingers and try to at least even out his breathing and his thrumming heart. And he will say to her, "It is a burden. You cannot know."
As you like touch their fingers, she starts to like slow her breathing down and try and like match it with his and get him to copy her. And when he says that, she like yawns first because she's just so tired from being woke up in the middle of the night. And she goes, "It's okay. I don't have to know, but you know, you don't have to." I don't know much about nightmares. I have some myself, but like they aren't, you know, they're not bad. They're not like your kind of bad. But if you want to talk about it, you can. And if you don't, we can just stay here and figure this out. Do you want to just copy my breathing in and out, okay? Just
As he's trying to breathe, you can hear how much of a labor it is up and through his throat and down into his chest, like it crackles. And they'll sit there and copy your breathing.
So while this is happening, Dhuur'in, this is kind of alongside Nox. This is a very new feeling for you, where it's just like having somebody who, for some reason, clearly cares about your well-being. And while this seems like a strange exercise, you find a sort of peace in it, trying to match her breathing, her slow breathing.
After a while, and after his heart rate has stopped palpitating so hard in his fingertips, he'll dip his head. He doesn't want to look at her when he speaks, but he will tell her, "I am being hunted by this ghost of old. I feel she is close. And you do not need to protect me from it."
as Oz hears that, she sort of digests it. And in her head, she hears hissing, something that she remembers, but it doesn't sit well with her. And she sort of like, she squeezes her eyes shut. And then after a moment, she's just completely okay again. And she says, she sort of like sighs and goes, I don't know about ghosts either. I've never really met one. But we don't need to protect you, and you don't need to protect us from this, whatever it is, because we've all got our demons. At least that's what Fen says when he goes on his little rants. But yeah, if we want to protect you, we will. It isn't a matter of asking. So don't feel scared to ask for it if you need to.
That it resonates with him a little bit. He recalls Nox sitting with him in the meditation room after another really bad nightmare. And he still won't look directly at her, but he will look up a little bit to regard her kindness. He'll squeeze her little hands and say, I thank you.
That's okay, mate. Is there anything you need to do to get back to sleep, or do you want me to rub your head? I don't know how this works.
No, I will not be sleeping.
Do you want to stay up with me then?
You should rest. I will.
And as soon as you say that, I would like you both to make perception checks.
Oh God. Oh God.
Uh-oh, spaghetti on.
Oh Lord.
We were bonding!
21!
Oh. Very oh well, that makes sense.
So, wait. Is that 9? No, it's a 10. 12.
Okay, so, I keep wanting to call Dhuur'in Zilbin for some reason. Dhuur'in, you're immediately cut off when the both of you hear the sound of shuffling downstairs. And Princess seems to react to it as well. Princess, who is curled up at the foot of Ozla's bed, kind of like perks up from his sleeping position. But yeah, you hear kind of like a rustling, shuffling downstairs, as well as like the creaking of boards.
I go for the dagger on my hip.
It's immediate the battle stance. I think Ozla's gonna notice Princess has lifted their head up, and sort of when Dhuur'in pulls away to grab his dagger, she clambers off the bed and she just goes to pet Ozla. I mean, Princess. Goes to pet Princess and goes, What's wrong? You okay? We all having nightmares tonight?
Princess looks at you and blinks one eye at a time.
Ozla does the same back. But then she realizes that Princess has probably lifted their head towards the door, so she looks at Dhuur'in and just nudges her head a little bit, I'm going over here, and goes to open the door. She jumps up to get the handle.
Okay, so as you pull the door open, the hallway that leads to the stairwell and down into the tavern proper is only very dimly lit by a hanging candle on the wall. But as you open the door, it's clear that the sound is coming from the downstairs tavern, and you can also hear somebody humming very softly.
Okay. Do we know the tune?
I'm going to say that unless you're very well versed in Zemnian lore, not quite. You know what? Give me another perception check. Give me another perception check.
21.
Okay. Wow. Well, you can definitely tell it's a lullaby of some kind, just from how soft and sweet it is, and from the pacing of the notes.
I get out of bed. I'm probably not wearing my cloak, so I'm probably not wearing my armor either.
Are you
naked? I get out of
naked?
bed and I'm gonna start skulking down the hall with my dagger drawn.
As we go, what room is Nox and Gesh in?
They're probably in the one right next to you.
Oz is going to knock the door because she knows that Nox is a bard or something. Or at least
you knock on the door and there's no answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we dead?
When when they don't answer, she knocks on Fenkin's.
No answer.
Is he dead?
Okay. All right. Ozla follows Dhuur'in as he keeps going down the hallway then.
All right. So as you guys slink down the hallway in your jammies, you eventually make it to the mouth of the stairwell, and you kind of like peek from under the space between like the railing and the ceiling, and in the interior of the tavern is darkly lit except for the center, and in the center stands Claudia Sheed in her own nightgown, and she seems to be holding something and kind of rocking it back and forth. And upon a closer look, you see Kubo asleep in her arms, his red chin resting on his shoulder, his eyes closed. You can kind of detect a wet streak of tears coming down his face down his cheeks, and he's about 5 years old, so he's a bit bigger for her to hold, but she doesn't seem to be having a problem, and she gently hums her tune as she bounces him in her arms, kind of gently rubbing small circles on his back.
I sheath my dagger.
Battle stance is out.
So as you sheath your dagger, there's kind of the of the blade going into the leather, and that kind of like makes Claudia startle a bit, and she whips around to see you two kind of staring at her from the stairwell. But she does breathe a sigh of relief before saying, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to wake any of you up."
That was a really pretty song, miss.
"Oh, thank you." And she pats Kubo's back. It's his favorite.
What song is it?
It's a lullaby, a Zemnian lullaby, very traditional in these parts.
Aww.
Are you guys coming down the stairs into the tavern now, or?
We're just talking from up the stairs.
Just yelling.
Yeah, I think.
Dhuur'in's still like kind of peeking.
I think Ozla's
He looks over at Ozla like,
I think Ozla's probably just gotten up now, and she's like just padding her way down the stairs, like hopping down.
All right. As you get closer, you can see that Kubo also kind of has his arms draped around Claudia, and he's clutching his doll tight enough for the claws at the end of his finger to actually kind of dig into the fabric.
No. Is everyone having nightmares in here tonight?
I'm afraid it's more common for him than I think, than I'd like to admit.
Oh. Poor boy.
I'll start following Ozla down the stairs very, very quietly.
Bodyguard.
She kind of looks around. She says, "I'm sorry. I'll take him to bed as quick as I can. He prefers being down here to when he has one of his nightmares."
No, it's okay. Fen would say we're guests in your home, so we can go if you need us to.
Claudia smiles and she shakes her head. She says, No, it's fine. I was about to start prep for the morning anyway."
Oh. All right, then, well, if you need us, we'll be in bed. Yes, that's the word.
Well, Dhuur'in, who doesn't plan on sleeping, he's lingering at the stairs, very similar to how Kubo did when he was first introduced to us, and he'll say, "If you require assistance, I will not be sleeping."
Can you repeat that last bit?
I will not be sleeping.
No.
Claudia kind of tilts her head and she's like, "No, that's quite all right, dear. Thank you, though. I do appreciate that."
Nods.
And let me check my notes here really quick. Ozla, you were the one asking about Kubo last time, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, as the night kind of continues on, and you guys find yourselves kind of like unable to get back to sleep, while I can't even talk. while she's still kind of holding Kubo and finally sits down to like let him kind of sleep in her arms a little bit. She kind of begins to explain a little bit more about this strange child, and what you come to find out is that Kubo is a tiefling, which was already fairly obvious, but he's also something called a sorcerer. And sorcerers, as you know, are people born with innate magical abilities, unlike wizards who need to study to cast their spells, or warlocks who take patronage with mighty beings to gain arcane prowess. Sorcerers are born with these innate abilities. And the particular type of sorcerer that Kubo is, after being studied by an emissary from the Solstice Academy, is a draconian sorcerer from far back in his bloodline. You also learn that, he was the child of one Vaynar and Hyboria Hashk, two tieflings who used to live in Zadash. And one night, a few years ago, back when Kubo was 3 years old, his powers went rampant, and he accidentally burned down his childhood home. Nobody was harmed, thankfully. However, his parents did see the danger in him, and Vaynar actually attempted to have the boy killed.
Jesus.
And thankfully, however, the crownsguard were able to intervene, but Hyboria was killed in the incident, and no one has seen Vaynar since, because afterwards he fled Zadash. And after all this, Claudia couldn't bear to see Kubo living on the streets, especially since the orphanage didn't have the resources to take him in, and so she decided to raise him for a little bit until she could get into contact with the Solstice Academy to come and raise him as a proper mage. And unfortunately, she's having some trouble with that because as it stands so far, the Zadash, the arm of the Solstice Academy in Zadash called the Hall of Iridation has yet to return any of her letters concerning the matter. But she's certain that through her faith that eventually Kubo will find his way. But yeah, so after all that, she is eventually able to take Kubo upstairs back to bed. And when she comes back down, she says something along the lines of deciding to give you guys an early breakfast. So she puts on her apron, and for you guys, the day begins about 3 or so hours early. And for the rest of the party, waking up at around 8 o'clock, you come downstairs, and it's clear that as you wake up, the morning is probably the busiest time for the tavern, as it's just full of people right now. Where it was once empty and devoid of patronage, people of every walk of life fill the tables to the bursting point. Laborers seek a starchy breakfast to sustain themselves in the coming workday, and they talk amongst themselves, as off-duty night guards sleepily munch away at what for them is a breakfast-style dinner. And so as Gesh, Nox, and Fenkin make their way downstairs, there's a big plethora of people, and you see already your two companions, well, three, including Princess, you have Fenkin and Ozla already at a table with just a big meal set out, a platter of eggs, some loaves of bread, glasses of milk, the whole 9 yards.
Dhuur'in's still in his PJs.
Oh.
Yeah. They haven't changed.
No shoes.
Ozzy's probably gonna wave them over, and she's probably already got her face stuffed full, and and she just holds up a half-eaten plate of eggs, Finn, come here, I made you breakfast. Just right above her head.
Fenkin kind of stretches out a bit, and then he yawns, and then he sees the amount of people, kind of freezes a bit, pulls his cloak closer, and then kind of looks around as he hurries up to Oz, trying to not bump into any people on the way. And then he kind of looks at her and at Dhuur'in with a questioning look, but he doesn't really say anything.
Yeah, Dhuur'in's in his PJs, correct? So he doesn't.
Yeah,
have
he's in his PJs.
So he doesn't have a hood on or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay,
He's
so-
in it's like a really rough looking tunic and a pair of baggy pants.
Oh,
Yeah, so, for the first time since back at Karn's treehouse, you see the bare face of your warlock, Dhuur'in.
Fenkin blinks at him a couple of times as if he actually struggles to sort of remember who he is. He's got his faces.
Dhuur'in raises his coffee to Fenkin.
Fenkin just sort of awkwardly nods, a little overly polite than he would usually be normally, but he's a bit shooketh by seeing Dhuur'in, so he's more polite. And then he leans down to Oz and is like, "Who is that?"
Oh, that's
Kolbavar was the name he gave you.
okay. She like forgets it for a second and goes, Kolbavar? Kolbeaver?
Cold bath.
It begins with a C, not a K.
Fenkin blinks at her and then goes, "You mean the hooded guy?"
Yeah.
Huh.
He says with like half a mouthful of toast, Kolbavar.
See, I told you it began with C, okay?
Fenkin sort of a little bit. You can kind of see how shocked he is because, in a way, he has related to Dhuur'in a little bit before in the way that he likes to avoid people and like avoid people looking at him. So now he is sort of shocked by how seemingly relaxed Dhuur'in is
Relax.
while not being covered up. So he sort of lowers his head a little to look at him and then silently goes, "You okay?"
He looks away.
Seems okay enough. And then he sits down next to us.
So as everybody sits down, Gesh, Claudia notices that you're all sitting down, and she runs up with kind of like a backless chair for you, so you can kind of slip your tail through it and sit a little more comfortably than in like a regular person chair.
Oh,
That's nice.
nice.
And she kind of like wipes her apron and takes out a little notepad and's like, everybody sleep well, all right?
Fenkin doesn't reply. He reaches for a drink and takes a little sip. Like,
Dhuur'in, who obviously didn't sleep well, just like,
Yes.
She kind of rests a hand on your shoulder, Dhuur'in. She says, would you like more coffee?
Oh, she touched him.
please give him more coffee. He's gonna need it. And probably some beer.
Okay. So as Claudia runs off to get the coffee, and you guys kind of tuck into what's already kind of on the table, you look around and you can kind of get a taste of what sort of people live in Zadash. You see nobles and family members at the table alongside workers and whatnot. And while there is like a clear difference in caste in Zadash, it would appear that here in the leaky tap, you know, a customer is a customer, no matter where they come from or who they might be, and everybody is just kind of sort of intermingling about. There is one table off to the side nearest the bar. It's a smaller table, and they're both sitting on a stack of books. Is Kubo and Zilbin, who are enjoying bowls of porridge. Zilbin's a bit more of a messier eater, and you watch as Kubo kind of rests his chin on the table with his hands like pressed up against his ears, and Zilbin sees this and reaches down under the table in a little burlap bag, and pulls out a pair of earmuffs and slips those over Kubo's head. And Kubo seems like much more comfortable and returns to eating his porridge.
They're best friends, Your Honor!
And eventually, a shadow begins to loom over the table. A very big shadow. And as you guys like turn to look up, before you stands the biggest, muscliest human you have ever seen in your life. Rippling muscles bulge against a white shirt, and an apron barely clings onto his waist. He has a very big handlebar mustache that pretty much covers up his mouth, as well as like perfectly coiffed flat hair. And he kind of winks at you all. And he's kind of holding a notebook and a pencil, like Claudio was. And you watch as he. My name, ladies and gentlemen, is Dudley von Dudley. Can I take your orders?
Is this Neil Armstrong? What is this?
Okay.
Some food falls out of Dhuur'in's mouth as he's staring, like...
Fenkin is grimace. How do you say it in English? Grimacing?
Grimacing? Yeah.
Grimacing, yeah. Just like...
Oh, poor guy.
I can tell you about today's specials, and you can see with like every sentence he kind of like pulls into a new pose. We have a fine breakfast medley on the pan already, with a buttermilk pancakes inside.
Nox, who I imagine has been kind of sitting there quietly. Her tail is wrapped around the leg of her chair, and she's enjoying her plate of largely cheese and milk, and probably some fish. She's been kind of watching Dhuur'in a lot and the rest of the group, but she will look at Johnny Bravo here and
Dudley.
and just kind of like size him up in a way that is very clearly somewhat disdainful. Just like a little bit of like, ugh, one of these types kind of a look. And then she'll say, some peace and quiet would be nice.
In response to that, he flexes again. He gives you one of those kind of flexes.
Yeah. like a Greek statue.
Well, if you're looking for it, we have sleepy time tea on tap.
Oh my god.
And Dudley's eyes flicker over to Gesh, and he says, "What about you, big guy? What can I get for a strapping young man like yourself?"
Poor Gesh.
Gesh goes, what?
No, he's just.
I know, I threw a lot at you at once.
To deal with.
He stands up and flexes back.
Just a stunt on him.
He's just like, I'm fine. You can leave whenever.
You can leave whenever.
Good.
Very well. If you need anything, you need only say the word. Once again, the name is Dudley von Dudley. And he turns around and kind of and he stumbles away.
I imagine Dhuur'in being like,
Oh, his eyes have not left this man. He's like,
Dhuur'in, you watch as he makes his way throughout the tavern, and you can kind of tell that Dudley is kind of like a fan favorite around here. He's able to work the crowd perfectly, all while like pouring coffee for an elderly lady. And he does apparently have this party trick where he'll walk up to a table and he'll be like, looks like the floor needs cleaning, and he'll lift it up with one hand and and like as this happens, like everybody around him just like claps and cheers. Ozla.
Hi.
While this is taking place, speaking of feats of strength, You look over at a certain table, and you can barely see the table because there are a bunch of people around it. But you hear like very intense arguing and squabbling, and after a moment, you hear like a roar from this crowd of like 5 to 10 people as you suddenly see you see a man get flipped over the table and then disappear behind the crowd again.
Oh, that's so cool.
Is it an arm wrestling match? Go do it, Ozla.
Please. She's just like watching like absentmindedly and like and chewing on some toast like it's a fucking burrito. And as like this guy sails across, she goes, oh, and then all at once she like jumps up and runs across the table surface and jumps down. And just like trying to wiggle in and try and get a look at it.
Okay, Fenkin. So you look away from Dudley and you see Ozla is looking at something. Her eyes are like wide like saucers and sparkling. And like you look over at the crowd to see what she's staring at, and when you look back, she's gone. And when you look back at the crowd, you can see her like army crawling under legs to get close.
He's in the middle of taking a sip, and he's like, "Oh shit, not again!" And then he gets up and like attempts to chase after her, like trying to not touch people because touching people is ill. So he's like, "Excuse me," and tries to follow her.
So I'm gonna do this one at a time. So Ozla, as you get closer, you do from all the shouting and the of the people in the group, you can kind of tell that there's some kind of like betting going on. If you look up, you can see like coins being passed from hand to hand. You can hear like curses and jeers in equal amounts. And when you finally make your way to the table, you see that at the table it's been completely cleared off, and there are 2 people seated there. One is an adult man who's like kind of like rubbing his arm, which is now like red. And you also see a young woman, a young green woman with very defined muscles. And as you look closer, you can see the tusks that kind of curl up from under her lip. And you can also see from her ears that there's a bit of elven ancestry in there. And I will now post a picture of what she looks like in memes.
I am leaning forward in interest.
Oh, she has an axe!
Oh my god.
Yes.
Yes!
You did this to me. You do this to me.
This is a character created by MC Siggy, by the way. Shout out to MC Siggy on Tumblr. I'll be posting Twitter and Tumblr links down below once we once this episode airs. But seriously, check them out. They do some fantastic work, and they also have a webcomic called Various Everythings. It's very, very good, especially if you like modern fantasy. I'm a big fan. And as you as you approach, you can kind of see this young woman. She's grinning and she's kind of like throwing up her arms, and you can hear the people around her shouting, "Adelaide, Adelaide, Adelaide!"
I was just like probably still on the floor, just like on her hands and knees between a bunch of like legs, and she's just staring up at her and she's like, oh, I want to fight her.
Almost as soon as you say that, you feel something grab the back of your shirt, and suddenly you're lifted off the ground, and suddenly you're face to face with Dudley once more. And he says, would you look at that? It seems we have another competitor. What's your name, young lady?
She looks at him and she remembers that he used to flex, so she looks at him directly and just does like a strong man pose and she's like, Ozla!
As you do that, he like flexes with his other hand and he says, Ozla, are you ready to take on the house champion, Adelaide? And he sweeps his hand over towards the half-orc, half-elf, and she kind of like puts her hand on the table and winks at you.
Ozla looks directly at this one, doesn't say anything, and just flexes more.
All right. With that, Dudley puts you on the chair in front of the table. Kind of realizes that's not going to be enough. Lifts you back up, kicks the chair away, and has somebody roll over a barrel that you can sit on. And now that you're all set up, he kind of sweeps his arms out and addresses the crowd, and he says, "Place your bets, everybody! You have 1 minute to place your bets! Will the victor be the house champion Adelaide, or will it be... Hey, do you want a title?"
She just goes blank. She's just like, princess? No, wait, not that one.
Ozla, the princess!
And she's like flopping her hands. No, I want something cooler.
And
Too late.
With
Aside princess.
with each name, the crowd shouts, but as soon as your name is called, there's kind of like a roll of laughter that peals all throughout, because you're a very tiny woman. And Fenkin, you arrive just in time to see Ozla sizing up this other girl at the table.
He has just managed to push himself through the last line of people to make it to the very front, spots her, and then takes a moment to comprehend the situation, and then just kind of slaps his head with his hand and is like, not again. And then, stands there.
And as soon as you slap your head, there's a guy behind you, kind of like an elderly man. He holds out a leather pouch and he says, "I got 50 gold against the pipsqueak."
I was going to correct me. Fuck you!
Fenkin turns
Gold on the pipsqueak.
He looks at him and is like, "You're on."
The guy looks at her. The guy looks at Fenkin and he kind of pauses. He's like, "What? You're betting on the little turd?"
You betcha.
Ooh.
He kind of
That's my brother!
He kind of smiles and he's like, "All right, how about this? We double it."
Ooh.
You can tell he's very confident that Ozla's gonna get pinned down.
Her ass whooped, yeah.
He lets out a chuckle, a very, very confident and almost mean chuckle, like, "You're on."
Oh.
Bloody all right.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh
He does like a little twitch, like, "No, thank you."
No, Fen, you have to.
Elves. And with that, Dudley makes his way over to the side of the table, puts his hands on it, and takes both of your hands, both yours and Adelaide's, clasps them together. And once again, Adelaide gives you kind of a wink before kind of steeling herself. And Dudley's got both of your hands in his, and he says, "All right, on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 2.5, 3!" And he releases, and I want you to make a strength check.
You for the love of God, do not be a fucking...
Come on, Ozla!
I have money
to
on
do
you.
this.
Dhuur'in's sitting backwards in his chair, trying to see over the crowd.
It's 19!
Oh, shit!
That's my bitch! Yes! That's my bitch!
So, as your hands clasp, and you feel she's incredibly strong. Her grip on your wrist feels like an iron vice that's been clamped down on your hand. But with an initial burst of adrenaline, you're almost able to slam her hand down on the ground, and she's actually kind of bent back and a little surprised, but she's able at the last second to just keep her hand just up on the table. And I want another strength check.
Oh God, oh God, oh God.
There it is!
Oh my God!
What?
It's, I got 18 and my fucking strength is a +2. It's 20! Oh no!
Okay. So Adelaide is able to muscle bit by bit, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, right back up to where you guys started, and it's a stalemate. Below, she's actually up on her feet now off the chair, and the floorboards below her, you can hear a crack as they sunder.
Oh my god.
All around you, the crowd is cheering, and I want one more strength check.
Oh no!
Oh god. Oh god. Oh
Please, for
god.
the love of God! I've had good rolls, please. 14.
Okay, she rolled
It's
a
not
3.
bad.
So, Ozla.
Son of a bitch.
At first, it seems like your arm is about to pass out. You can feel it almost like it's turning into lead. You can feel it numbing up, and you feel like you're not going to win this. But there's a moment where in the very back of your mind, a very deep-set memory, you hear a crash of thunder, like a storm brewing over the open seas. You close your eyes, you open them, and they're a deep blue. And with a roar that shakes the entire tavern, you're able to slam her hand down so hard it splits the table in half, and she's flipped up off her feet.
Oh my god.
Right. Shit. Oh god, as it happens, Ozla's like, as soon as she goes down, she just lifts her arms up and does another strongman pose.
So as this happens, there's the sound of cracking wood and you throwing your hands up in victory. There's a moment of silence. The entire crowd is like frozen, and even Dudley has stopped like mid-flex to be like, and finally, in the back, you hear someone shout, "Ozla the princess!" And there's a roar of cheer. And Fenkin, as you like look over at the old man next to you, his face is like pale and white. And he's like very loosely holding the leather bag of coins.
Fenkin, he tosses him a smug look and a little giggle, like, and then he reaches out with one long bony finger and he hooks it into like the string around the coin purse. He's like, "I'll take this."
As the crowd is cheering, Dudley makes his way over to Ozla, takes her by the wrist, and is like, "Our champion! Oh shit!" And he kind of forgets that like you're a halfling who's 3 feet tall, so you're just kind of like dangling in the air.
He's like, "You fucking idiot!"
And as he like sets you back up down on the table, you watch as like Adelaide stands up, and at first she does look a bit peeved, but she does smile and sticks her hand out to shake yours.
Ozla, she like looks at her and then she spits on her hand and then goes out to shake it.
They clap as you clasp hands and you give them a good shake. Dudley stirs up the crowd again with another flex behind you two.
In the background, flexing.
So Fenkin, go ahead and add 100 gold to your.
Damn, boy!
And he's just kind of amused and spinning the coin purse around his finger, like super
So smug. Oh my gosh.
So with that commotion done, you watch as like Dudley very in his huge arm gathers up the pieces of the table, and everybody kind of like disperses a bit. Still a bit. The losers of the gambling still very much shocked that such a pint-sized halfling was able to overturn the town champion. And while this is happening, Nox, Gesh, and Dhuur'in, you couldn't really get like a good look of what was happening, but as the crowd disperses, you see Ozla walking back with a very triumphant look on her face, and you see Fenkin kind of twirling a bag of coins in the air.
Nox was she was kind of in the beginning. She was kind of seeming disinterested, largely because she's grumpy because she just woke up. But then as it kind of progressed, she got more and more visibly like into it and excited, and she was probably standing on her chair at some point to try to see a little bit better what was going on. And so by the time that they come out and back to the group, she's just like wide-eyed staring at them in like clear, just like shock and disbelief. And then she just kind of like looks wordlessly for a couple of seconds, and then she's like, "Where did that come from?"
Oh my god. I was just like looks around. She goes, "What? What did what?"
I would
She
like
like gestures vaguely at the crowd. That.
Fenkin kind of sinks down onto his chair, still twirling the little bag, and it says, "She may be a brute, but she sure has her worth."
Aww, you complimented me.
Shut up.
Ozla, do you give him like a playful punch?
Yeah.
You'll kill him. Roll a strength check.
Hold on,
Actually, yeah, roll strength.
Roll
Roll strength check, and Fenkin roll a Constitution check with disadvantage.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna hit this because I got a 2 plus 2, so 4.
He could be worse. You never know.
15.
15. Okay, so as
You don't even feel it.
so Ozla punches you, and like you don't fall out of the chair, but goddamn, does that sting?
He's like, watch it. Off that brute strength.
And Gesh, while this is taking place, maybe as you're about to take a sip of tea, you feel a tugging on your robes on the left side.
Yeah, so she turns to see who's hugging.
Slowly.
To the side of you stands Zilbin, hand in hand with Kubo, who's kind of like sort of standing behind Zilbin. But Zilbin, as confident and cheeky as ever, he grins up at you and says, "Hey, Dragon Man."
Hello, child.
He kind of like tugs Kubo forward a bit, who's very hesitant as he steps forward, and he looks back up at you and says, "Oh, Kubo says he wants to see your scales."
Just any of my scales?
Yeah, he
Or
wants to see if his hands are like yours, and he kind of lifts up Kubo's hands, and you see like the draconic scales interlinking up from the back of the hand onto the fingers.
So Gesh just kind of pulls one of his sleeves back, and holds his right down so that they can see the scales over his hands and his arm.
As you kind of bring down your hand towards Kubo, you watch as his cuttlefish-like eyes kind of like widen, and his cat-like mouth kind of drops open a little bit, and he steps forward and almost drops his doll, which Zilbin is able to catch before it falls. And two little hands take your very big one, and you can feel the little thumbs kind of like exploring the hand, kind of tracing the scales, very slowly turning it. And you can see just like the childlike awe in his face as his eyes flicker from your scales to his, kind of seeming to compare them.
Sorry, can you hear my cat screaming?
I kind of figured that was
What?
either that or Sophie.
Cat screaming? What?
Oh, okay.
What did you say, Ethan?
And you guys watch as this happens, as Gesh, a very big Dragonborn, looks down at Kubo, a very small child, as he kind of like explores the bigger man's hand.
Aww. Shit.
And I forgot to mention it, but Princess is still on the table doing what she did last night, where he's just like nibbling on cheese and sitting like a person.
Fenkin watches them, and you can kind of see the look in his eyes kind of soften a little bit in just the interaction between two people or creatures connecting in a way that he hasn't really been able to do with anyone.
Two people.
Wow.
Damn.
Damn.
Savage.
They're not people.
And
the dragons.
Wow.
And Gesh, you can feel too the touch that Kubo's hand is like not hot, but like ostensibly warm, like much warmer than like any hand that you've ever felt before. And but just as like you're maybe about to say something or make a comment on it, you suddenly hear the door to the tavern at the very end explode open, and the sound's enough to like startle Kubo, and he lets out like a little shriek. And as you all turn around, you see that in the doorway, with his hands kind of like on both doors, keeping them open, stands a silvery scaled dragonborn, wearing a blacksmith's apron and breathing incredibly heavily, just panting as his head bops up and down. Finally, he looks up, reptilian eyes wide with unrestrained panic, and when he finally catches his breath, he looks up into the bar and at everybody, and he speaks. Murder! Murder in the market! Up near the vagrant! There's a body!
Oh, God.
And with that, the bar is suddenly just a huge flurry of commotion as everybody starts talking like, what do you mean? What's going on? And suddenly people are like getting up out of their chairs, and you see this dragonborn like bringing people out like, come on, it's over by the vagrant, the invulnerable vagrant. And you can see Claudia, like, she's kind of panicking too, kind of like picking up Kubo, who by this time is like crying, and he's burying his face into the crook of her neck. And while she's like trying to calm him down, she's also trying to like memorize faces of people who are leaving, just in case someone decides not to come back and pay their bill. But yeah, you see a big group of people leaving. What do you do?
I rush back upstairs to go put my clothes on.
That's a good idea. Nox's ears kind of pricked up. She's like kind of looking between the moving crowd and back at her, at the party. And then she kind of says kind of low, like as if she's trying not to be overheard. She's just trying to talk to the party. She's like, we should go investigate that, right?
Should we?
Shortly,
Yes.
Dhuur'in is coming back down the stairs, fully dressed, staff in hand.
Considering there was an assassination attempt on one of our own, I think it is a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Why? But they were after us, not anyone else. What point would there be?
Well, first of all, it never hurts to look. And secondly, if there is something going on in this city that could potentially endanger any of us, not just Ozla, I think we should be aware of it.
You're almost losing sight of the crowd. The last person just went by the window.
Dhuur'in is like halfway into the middle of the tavern, and he looks back at everybody else like,
come on!
And sometimes, like, here we go again, as he gets up and like drags Ozla along.
Wait, no.
can I request a 5-minute break before we get to the murder?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's take a 5-minute break because you're
A little pre-murder break. I need to get a water.
All right. So we will pick up. We will pick up in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yay.
Water time.
What a time.
What a time.
We're still recording, so don't get undressed on camera or whatever.
Oh.
Oh, damn it. Okay, I'll keep my clothes on for now.
I was just gonna about turn my camera on for that. Bitch, I'm gonna be dice at turning up.
Hello.
Oh.
Hey,
Are we just waiting on him now?
Yeah.
You guys having fun so far?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I should have sworn, sorry.
I love starting with a terrible nightmare.
It's the best way to start.
See, I told you, nothing bad happened to Kubo.
Doesn't mean it
You-
won't.
You made
a
him
monster.
Not
You
yet.
did make me
Made
cry.
Kubo cry fast.
Hey, Vinn. So, do you want
God.
to tell them what happened exactly?
Oh, God.
First, tell them what you wrote in the Discord server, and then tell them what I told you to do.
Christ.
So, Connor sent me a script for this game where something unspeakable happens to Kubo.
Oh my God.
And I let the server know that I was very upset. However, that day, Connor sent me a message and said, "Hey, Vinn, you want to help me fuck with the dice dogs?" And I said, "Absolutely. What do you need me to do?" And he said, "I want you to go to the server and tell them that you saw a part of the script of the game where something terrible happens to Zilbin and Kubo. Whatever happens is up to you." So I went into the server raving about this terrible thing that didn't happen to Kubo or Zilbin, just to make everybody a little bit upset.
You
And you
bitches.
did, you monster.
Vinn, on the left side of the screen, I want you to bring your fist up because I'm gonna fist bump you. Wrong side. Wrong side.
I'll have you guys know that you look stupid on my screen because I'm on Connor's screen, and you're both fist bumping in the same direction. So ha!
Yeah, it
Well,
looks like that
it's
for me as
reversed
well.
for me, so and,
you know.
Yeah, but which recording is gonna go on YouTube?
You're
Okay.
right. You're right.
See, this is why we should all record from outside.
Yeah. We don't need to bend our knee.
While we're waiting on M, I'd like to talk about our sponsor, Blue Apron. Blue Apron is a fantastic. We're not sponsored by them. We'll never.
We would
Yes,
never
we
be
are.
sponsored by
Dudley
Blue
Von
Apron.
Dudley's wearing their
Joke.
apron.
It's a joke.
Nobody sponsored by anyone. Except for today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
What isn't a joke?
Oh my god! If we ever get to a position where we can monetize this, I'm never doing ads like the mid-roll ads because nobody likes that shit.
True.
You'll never see a mid-roll ad on a Dice Dogs video. Ever.
Not even for our new sponsor, Dollar Shave Club.
Oh my god! That's also a joke. You're gonna get us in so much trouble.
No, any ads would play at the very end when you've already clicked off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do what Sam Riegel does, and we'll pick the funniest member of the group to do an ad read.
Yeah. It'll be at the end so that you don't have to see it because you're too busy playing AFK Arena.
Oh my god.
It really speaks to our
Also a
capitalistic
joke.
culture. It really speaks to our capitalistic culture that we have the name of the companies memorized that do shit like this.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So are we all back?
I believe so.
All right. So we left off with Dhuur'in very much in business, already kind of making his way out of the bar and kind of giving you guys a come on look, which very strange look coming from a warlock with green glowing eyes. Kind of feels like something you shouldn't resist.
He's irresistible.
That's what
Everybody's
Connor said.
dragging Ozla out the door.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Fenkin was also dragging Ozla.
She's hanging onto a piece of bread.
Despite Dhuur'in very clearly being told, "Don't stick your nose in shit," he's like, "Well, somebody got murdered. I'm in the business of helping, I guess. So gotta go."
I have to stick my nose in it.
So I'm assuming everybody gets up and follows Dhuur'in out the door.
Yeah.
Party leader
Reluctantly,
warlock.
Gesh follows.
Okay. So Gesh, as you stand up, Princess leaps off the table and kind of like scrabbles up your tail, up your back, and kind of like to dangle around your neck, like kind of like one of those fox scarves. And so as you guys make your way out into the street, it's kind of like it's not an especially bright morning. It's kind of like gray and overcast a bit. Not quite to the point where you can tell it's going to rain, but still there's not a lot of sunshine out. And you can see the crowd of people making their way down the street, and you follow post haste, and you follow them all the way to the center of the town, back where the invulnerable vagrant is, at kind of through the market. And the marketplace of Zadash is a veritable town of tents and booths, with wares of all kinds on display, protected by the elements by a web of awnings and overhangs that kind of jet out from the Germanic-style buildings that are along the stretching street. But as you near the entrance to the market, you can see that a huge crowd of people is kind of like packed around the side of the invulnerable vagrant, which you recognize immediately. And you can also recognize the coloration on the tabarns of the crownsguard, 5 or so crownsguard, as they kind of like push the crowd back to try to keep them away from something.
Nax is going to pick up Ozla and try to hold her above her head so that she can see what's going on.
Are you periscoping with the halfling?
Yes, correct.
So
she'll give very little. She'll give very little warning. She'll just kind of like grab Ozla under the armpits and then say like, "Okay, up you go," and then just like lift her.
So Ozla, you feel a pair of fuzzy paws suddenly lift you off the ground. There's a lot of you lifting today.
Yeah, she's being lifted quite a lot.
And before you know it, you're kind of like hoisted up above the crowd. And as you look over the crowd and past the shoulders of the crownsguard, the first thing you see is the unmistakable red splatter of gallons upon gallons of human blood.
Jesus.
Pooling between the cracks of the flagstone and turning the road's surface into a red mirror of slick gore and viscera. A body, freed of its head, leans slumped against one of the buildings of the walls of the invulnerable... Let me try that sentence again. A body freed of its head leans slumped against one of the walls of the invulnerable vagrant, where it is conjoined with another building, limp and lifeless. It's the body of a human man, middle-aged, judging by the sides. The skin is a ghostly white, as the lifeblood that once made it a healthy pink drains away from the remains of the gored neck. Cuts line the cadaver like tattoos, speckled randomly across limbs and the torso, in a series of quick slices. As Crownsguard try to move people away from the grisly scenelet, there's the sound of someone near the back, doubling over and retching, the stink of bile now joining with the copper tang of blood. Oof. And as you look up from the body, you can also see words that have been painted onto the wall of the invulnerable vagrant with the blood of the victim. And it reads in a very scrawled handwriting, tall man, knocking on the door.
Slenderman?
As she sees it, Ozla sort of goes, "Oh bugger," and she like squints to read the text, and she tells you, and she just goes, tall man, knocking on the door." Guys, have you ever heard that?
Fenkin turns around and retches. He's like,
I guess.
God.
Yeah, so that's what you see, Ozla.
Horrible. Thank you.
I don't know if insight would work. Can I roll insight?
For what?
Or does that work? I don't know. I want to roll insight though.
For the text on the wall?
Yeah, the text on the wall.
Like, are you trying to figure out what the text means? Like some kind of historical basis or something?
Yeah.
That would be a history check then.
Okay, can I do a history check?
Yeah, go ahead and give me a history check.
Thank you.
History check.
History check.
We're so good at those.
Yeah, we just we
got a
win
plus
those every
zero.
time.
A high intelligence.
I got a 5.
All right.
Yeah,
You recognize that they're words.
You look at the words and you look at the words and you realize they rhyme.
Oh god. But yeah,
Hey,
she's
that could
got
be.
a
That's useful.
We got a murder poet, folks.
The worst kind of poet.
But
And-
yeah, that's what she's got.
So
Because they kill the mood and people.
So Nox, eventually you have to bring Ozla down.
Lower her, yeah.
Because even though she is a halfling, she's also a barbarian with a lot of
hefty.
muscle on her, which makes her
Yeah.
a bit heavier than you're used to. So you are finally able to set her down, and as this is happening, the guards are getting a little more violent. They're kind of like taking out batons and taking swings at anybody getting too close, and that's enough to like disperse most of the people as they start getting away. You do hear some people crying. You do, and it's just a storm of murmurs and all that. And eventually, one of the guards, a young human man, looks at you, Dhuur'in,
Oh.
and he points his baton at you and starts to storm over and says, "You, dark elf, you stay right there."
He startles a little bit and like holds his staff a little close and raises his other hand like, I'm unarmed.
He doesn't seem to hear. In fact, he doesn't slow down until he makes his way all the way up to you, and he jabs his baton into your chest, and he says, "You know anything about this? Where were you in the last 5 hours?" You can feel
kind
his
of
hot
points
breath
with
on
his
your
thumb.
face.
He points with his thumb back towards the leaky tap.
Answer me in common script, you dirty dark blood.
Ooh.
Hey, don't be
We got
Yeah, okay, and that Gesh walks over, grabs him by the shoulder, just yanks him away. And it's like, if there are any questions you need to ask, you can ask them to all of us.
Ho ho. Ho ho.
Make an intimidation
okay.
check, Gesh.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Come on, Gash.
Also, Fenkin glares at him at the mention of that horrible name that he called Dhuur'in with. He's like,
That's an unnatural 20.
Okay. So
He is a very large reptile man.
So, as you rip the guard away, you can see that his face was like red with fury. But as soon as he like turns to look up at whoever dared like speak to him in that way, you see it like go ghostly pale as he like looks up at Gesh, and there's a moment of like, I didn't, I, and before he can get another word out, from behind you, Gesh, you hear, "Stop, it's all right, it's okay." And when you turn around, you recognize the red tiefling from the crownsguard who actually interrogated you, Ozla, at last game. And he's waving his hand and making his way over slowly. He kind of like puts his hand on yours, Gesh, where you kind of have it on the guard, and he kind of gently slides it off, and he shoves the guard away, giving him a very disapproving look. And the younger guard is just kind of like, I was just go. And the guard kind of like nods and makes his way over to the rest of the other guards. And the captain kind of like rubs his eyes, and he's just like, sorry, bunch of new recruits. They don't know how to act around the populace. I do apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps you should keep them in line next time.
Ho ho.
It's a little hard to do that with hackles raised like this. And he kind of gestures his hand over the body, and he's like, oh, Christ, this is exactly what I needed this morning. I'm assuming that you lot don't know anything about this.
No. Until we saw the body, we knew nothing. So,
And you And you were in the tavern that I paid for last night?
Yes.
All last night?
Yes.
He kind of like looks over all of
Nothing.
you. What's that? What?
Oh no, I was just like, everyone's nodding their heads in synchronization.
He kind of like looks over all of you, and he looks to Ozla again, kind of like crooks his brow, and then he's just like, all right, yeah. Thought he would have told me if any of you left. All right. And by now, a lot of the crowd is kind of dispersed, and the guards are kind of like making kind of impromptu blocker by setting up some like sheets on sticks around the body. And he kind of turns back to look at the very grisly scene set before him, and he just kind of rubs his neck and he's like, it's the third one this month.
Third.
Oh.
Yeah. About last week was the last one. Poor woman out in the poorer districts. Head chopped off just like this one. No idea where it is. Fucking hell. Who fucking does this?
Nox kind of shoulders her way up a little bit so that she can get a little closer, and she's like, who was this most recent victim?
The guard kind of like he rubs the back of his neck, and then he steps down, and he very like tenderly takes the wrist of the body and turns the hairy arm, and you can see like a tattoo of like a coiling serpent, kind of a very stylized coiling serpent, and he swears and steps back and says, "Oh, bloody fucking hell. It's Hadvar.
Hadvar.
Hadvar Ollinson, aye. Good man. He worked as a printer, had his own shop. He only set up in town about 2 years ago. No, plenty of friends, no enemies. He was kind to everybody he met. Don't know why anybody would do him like this." And he gestures again to the fact that he has no head. Christ, I mean, I had tea with his wife 2 weeks ago.
And the other victims, were they all human?
No. One was an elf. Another one was a halfling, I think.
Shit.
Is there any connection between the victims?
He kind of like turns towards you, and he looks very like, you can see there's like a tired frustration in his eyes as he kind of puts his hands on his hip, and he's like, "Not that we found, but like I said, we've been stretched thin the past few months. What with all the guard checking and all that, barely having any of the resources to send out anybody after this madman. At least enough to do any investigations of our own. Anything we do try to investigate comes up cold. I'm gonna need to fucking retire."
Oh, poor guy. Nox kind of hums and tilts her head, and then looks at this guard and says, "Perhaps we can be of some assistance." Well, I am thinking that whoever has knowledge of this terrible crime is clearly on the lookout for guards poking their heads around in their business. But we could maybe get some information more subtly.
He scratches his chin and he's like, "Normally I wouldn't want to involve civvies, but we were thinking about hiring some mercenaries soon enough. And on top of that, you lot seem to be and he kind of like looks at you one at a time. Inconspicuous bunch of a kind." He thinks for a minute and he's like, "All right, listen. Here's what we'll do. Stay in the city limits, like I said yesterday. But anything you can turn up, I'll give you, say, 50 gold each. You'd be doing us a favor. And if you find anything significant, I might actually lift the travel ban for a bit early. Call it compensation. You do that?
Yes, I think we can agree to that.
All right.
Dhuur'in will step up to him after what just fucking happened, and he'll kind of say, "Can you promise my protection?"
He blinks, and then he realizes what you mean, and he's like, "Don't fucking kill anyone, and you'll stay out of the stockades."
Fine.
Personally, I got nothing against Drow. I don't. Just stay out of trouble, all of you, alright? And don't get fucking killed over this.
He gives him like an eye, like I've heard that one before.
Look, I don't have a problem with all Drow. It's just, they come into a neighborhood and they raise the property taxes. They just take over, is what it is.
He has Drow
I have
friends.
Drow friends.
I'm not racist, but
Many friends, many Drow. Love them. Great.
something sort of.
All great.
My girlfriend was a Drow.
I love drows. Fenkin sort of nods slowly as it seems they've sort of somehow agreed to helping out with this case. And then he sort of crosses his arms and looks at him and says, "If we are to perform any kind of investigation, I do believe we require more information. Is there anyone we can ask, or?"
Unfortunately, with how busy I am, I'm not able to associate with the civilians as much as I want to, but you could talk to Pumat. It's his store this took place in, after all. And he's got a good lay of the land.
Has all of these murders been committed in the same location?
No, this one's the first one that happened here. The other two happened in the poorer districts down south.
Could you perhaps mark it out on a map for us?
Yeah, sure. And he kind of like reaches into his pocket and produces both a golden badge as well as a map. And he kind of like takes out a pencil and shows you circles on the map where like some of the different districts in Zadash are. And he rolls that up and hands that to you. And then he looks to Dhuur'in and holds out the badge. And you can see that there's kind of like an emblazoned imperial seal on it, as well as like a crown. And he says, "Anybody gives you guff, you just show him this." Go ahead and Fenkin, go ahead and add Zadash map to your inventory, and Dhuur'in add Captain of the Guard badge or Captain badge, whatever you want to add. And the captain's like, "You can keep." And the captain's like, "You can keep that. We give them out to kids all the time."
So
Love that.
you
Slide
said
it into his bag.
So, Captain, you said that the victim had a wife, and where exactly does she?
Oh, Bryn Ollinson. Yeah, she actually lives around here. She and Hadvar had a house that they also worked at that also served as their own shop at the printers. You might want to go talk to her. Anybody else? I would start with Pumat though.
Very well.
All right, let's clean it up, lads. And he turns around and kind of like gestures for everybody to like get started a bit faster. And as you turn, you can see there was like a guardsman who was kind of slacking on like cleaning the wall, but then he's like, but yeah. So with this in mind, and the image of a horribly mangled body in your oh, by the way, does anybody want to check the body real quick?
Would they let us?
Well, now that you're part of the investigation, I would say so.
I'm on it.
The warlock.
Check.
Durin's gonna loot the body.
Dhuur'in, give me a medicine check.
Ooh.
Ooh.
to determine the cause of death.
That was a natty 1.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Cause of death.
You compromise the crime scene.
Look, I just got hassled by a cop, okay? I'm a little shaken.
So you all watch as Dhuur'in like crouches down and stares at the body. And stares at the
And then
body.
just walks away.
And stares at the body. And stares at the body. And stares at the body. And eventually one of you is just like, maybe I should take a whack at it.
Who else wants to take a whack at it?
Blood pretty.
Nox will come sniff it.
Okay.
She's not going near nothing.
She comes up kind of beside where Dhuur'in is crouching, and she crouches next to him, and then she sniffs the air like rather conspicuously a couple of times, and she's like, ah.
I remember Tabaxi
He's
get
dead.
advantage on perception checks made with like hearing and smell, I believe. So go ahead and roll me a perception check with advantage.
Ooh, I'll do that. What's my perception? It's +5. Let's get nasty.
Fucking hell.
I'm very perceptive. It's the only thing I have going for me because I have 0 intelligence. You say with advantage?
With advantage, yeah. And
I'm
if
gonna
anybody
need that,
needs a
'cause
reminder, advantage means you roll 2 d20s and you take the highest number.
I'm gonna need that because my first one was a 3. That is a fucking nat 20. 25.
Yay!
So,
That,
so this is for your perception
I solved
check.
the crime instantly.
So this is for your perception check. So as your kitty nose kind of sniffs the air, you can by the tang and the scent of the blood itself, you can tell that it hasn't been there for very long, and you can tell like from how much of it has actually dried. The body's been there for maybe an hour or two. But that's all you can really tell from smell. You can't really like smell anything foreign in the blood or anything. Do you want to make a medicine check?
Sure, I'll make a medicine check.
Okay.
Do better than me.
And I'm going to go ahead and give you advantage on that medicine check as well because you've sussed out the blood pretty well too. So that's going to give you like a better starting point.
Okay. 17.
17. All right. So as you look at the cuts that line the skin, they seem very strange. You've never seen a cut like this, not from any claw, knife, sword, anything bladed that you've seen before. This is not. Each cut kind of looks like it starts here, but it also seems like it kind of tilts up at an angle in a way, kind of like this. It almost looks like 2 blades came down at the same time and intersected with each cut.
Very interesting. She'll kind of notice that little oddity, and she tilts her head, and then she looks back over her shoulder, and she points at Ozla first, and then Fenkin, and then she waves them over, like, you two, come here.
Yep. Okay, I guess Gesh would just stand here. Don't.
There's a reason.
Ozla trots over.
Thank you, follows reluctantly.
Better come close to this body. She will gesture at them. Yeah, poor guy. She'll gesture at them until they get very close, and then she points at the scars or the cuts on the body, and she says, "Do you see the strange way that these cuts are oriented?"
Ozla like leans in and squints a little bit, and she goes, "Are they claw marks?"
No, but both of you are blade users in some capacity. Certainly more than I am. Have you ever seen a cut like that made by a single blade?
Do you want me to roll a check for anything?
Yeah, you know what? Go ahead and God, what check would this be? Yeah, but both of you make medicine checks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I just opened the wrong thing. Oh, I didn't. Thank God. That's my medicine. I can't. Oh, that's a -1. Yes.
You have a -1 to medicine?
Right? Hang on. Either way, this is a bad roll. I just want to know now.
21.
Oh,
Yeah, I got -1. I got a
Yeah.
4.
Okay.
No worries. Fenkin's got it.
So, Fenkin, in your youth, you've probably made your own suit, your own clothes before. There's a lot of seamstress work in elf society, especially proper elves who know how to make their own clothes. And you've worked with scissors before, and you've seen the way that scissors can cut fabric, and you're looking at this cut, and it's very reminiscent of that.
So he sort of holds his chin a little bit and reluctantly leans closer. Very reluctant. Doesn't really want to get too close to this disgusting mess. But he inspects the cut and he just seems like he's not really thinking about anything in particular at first. And then it sort of hits him and he widens his eyes a little bit. And then he goes... like that, yeah. And then he's like, huh. And then he doesn't really elaborate for a while. He's quiet, but you can obviously tell that he has thought of something.
Nox is just kind of looking at him expectantly, and then when he doesn't say anything, she's like, care to elaborate?
He blinks a few times, and then he looks at her and he says, I'm not sure you're going to believe me.
Well, spit it out then.
It looks... the unevenness of the cuts reminds me of the way two blades would intersect, correct? But it doesn't look like anything a dual wielder would use. In fact, it looks more like the way scissors would cut into paper. This sort of jagged cut that doesn't really line up properly.
Bloody scissors.
And then he sort of shakes his head a little bit and is like, not sure I've ever seen scissors that large, though.
Nox kind of hums, and then she kind of like leans back a little bit on her haunches, and she looks up at the three of them that are nearby, and then back at where Gesh is standing, and she's like, I think that we should pay the shopkeep a visit.
Fenkin sort of nods solemnly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as you all finish up looking over the body, two guards, one of them kind of wearing like a paramedic version of the guard tabard that has kind of like a white tabard color up to it. They step up and they have kind of like a large sack that they're going to put the body in. And you step away to let them go about their grisly work. And you make your way to the front of the invulnerable vagrant. And with that, we are going to take a short 10-minute break, and we will come back with part 2.
Party.
Ah!